When grocery delivery driver Ariel knocks on the wrong door during a storm, she meets Julian Everhart, reclusive novelist, grieving widower, and her unexpected future. But their quiet connection is about to face the world. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The rain pounded against the windshield of Ariel Benton's old sedan as she squinted at her phone's GPS. The battery icon flashed red, just 2% left. Perfect timing. She was already running an hour behind on her deliveries for Pine Grove Grocers, the small family-owned service where she'd worked for the past 3 years. "Come on, don't die on me now," she muttered, tapping the phone screen as it flickered. At 36, Ariel had hoped she'd be somewhere else by now, not making grocery deliveries to the wealthy homes scattered along Hillcrest Road. But life had other plans. After her sister Karen's death last year, Ariel had stepped in to help raise her niece Lily, and that meant keeping this job with its flexible hours and decent pay. The phone screen went black. "Great, just great." She pulled over and dug through her delivery log. The next address was 1422 Evergreen Lane. She'd been there before, the Morrison house with the snooty housekeeper who never tipped. Ariel memorized the address, stuffed the papers back in her bag, and pulled back onto the winding road. The rain intensified as she turned onto what she thought was Evergreen Lane. The massive homes were spaced so far apart that she could barely see the next driveway. She counted down. 1428, 1426, 1424. There it was, 1422. She pulled into the long cedar-lined driveway and parked in front of a stunning glass and cedar house nestled among towering pines. "That's weird," she said to herself. The Morrisons' place was all white brick, but the number on the mailbox matched her delivery. Maybe they'd renovated. Ariel grabbed the 2 bags of groceries from the passenger seat and ran through the rain to the covered porch. She rang the bell twice, as the wealthy clients often required, and waited, trying to smooth her damp hair. The door opened, and Ariel felt her rehearsed greeting freeze in her throat. Standing before her wasn't Mrs. Morrison's stern-faced housekeeper, but a man. Tall, with tousled dark hair streaked with silver at the temples, wearing a simple grey sweater with the sleeves rolled up and, surprisingly, no shoes. He held a steaming ceramic mug in one hand and looked at her with curious blue eyes. "I'm sorry, Ariel started, suddenly sure she was at the wrong house. But instead of scowling or correcting her, the man smiled. It was a gentle smile that transformed his serious face, reaching all the way to his eyes. "Hello," he said, his voice quiet and warm. Ariel fumbled with her phone, forgetting for a moment that it was dead. "I think I'm at the wrong address. I'm looking for 1422 Evergreen Lane. This is 1422 Cedar Crest Drive," he replied. "Evergreen is one road over." "Oh, I'm so sorry," Ariel said, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. "My phone died and I thought, I'm really sorry to bother you." The rain came down harder, drumming against the roof of the porch. The man glanced past her at the downpour, then back at her damp clothes. "Would you like to come in?" he asked softly. "I just made tea." Ariel blinked, taken aback by the unexpected invitation. She was a stranger with grocery bags, clearly lost, and this man, who lived in a house that probably cost more than she'd earn in 3 lifetimes, was inviting her in for tea. "I should really get going," she said. "The Morrisons are expecting their groceries." "The Morrisons moved to Florida 6 months ago," he replied, a hint of amusement in his voice. Ariel felt her confusion deepen. "But they're still on my delivery schedule. Their house has been empty. It just sold last week." There was something in his voice, a gentle honesty, and beneath it something that sounded almost like loneliness, that made Ariel hesitate. The rain wasn't letting up, and she was already behind schedule. A few minutes to warm up and maybe charge her phone wouldn't hurt. "I suppose a quick cup of tea would be nice, thank you," she said. "I'm Ariel, by the way. Ariel Benton." "Julian," he replied, stepping aside to let her in. "Julian Everhart." The name struck her as vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place it. The inside of the house was even more impressive than the exterior, open and airy with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out onto the rain-soaked forest. Despite its grandeur, the space felt lived in, with books stacked on coffee tables and a half-written page left in an old typewriter. "You can set those down anywhere," Julian said, gesturing to the grocery bags. "Would you prefer black tea or herbal?" "Herbal, please," Ariel answered, carefully placing the bags by the door. She wouldn't want to forget them when she left. As Julian disappeared into what she assumed was the kitchen, she took a moment to look around. The house was beautiful, but quiet, too quiet for such a large space. No family photos adorned the walls, no signs of children or a partner. Just books, lots of books and simple, elegant furniture. Julian returned with a second mug and handed it to her. Chamomile with a touch of honey. It seemed fitting for a rainy day. "Thank you," she said, accepting the warm mug gratefully. "This is very kind of you." Julian motioned toward a comfortable-looking couch facing the windows. "Please sit. If you'd like to charge your phone, there's an outlet behind the side table." Ariel sat down, feeling both awkward and oddly at ease. Julian took a seat in an armchair across from her, leaving a respectful distance between them. For a moment, they both watched the rain in silence. "I haven't had a visitor in months," Julian said suddenly, his voice so quiet she almost didn't hear him. "Not one who actually came inside, at least." Ariel looked at him more carefully. Now that she was sitting across from him, there was something familiar about his face. "Do you live here alone, Mr. Everhart?" "Julian, please. And yes, just me. The house is too big for one person, but I like the forest." He took a sip of his tea. The silence gets loud sometimes, especially at night. It creaks. There was something so honest in that statement that Ariel felt her professional demeanor soften. "I know what you mean. After my sister died last year, her house felt like that, too full of echoes." Julian's eyes met hers, and she saw a flash of understanding. "I'm very sorry about your sister." "Thank you," she said, surprised at herself for sharing such a personal detail with a stranger. "It's been difficult. I'm helping raise her daughter. My niece, Lily, she's 12. Julian nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's a challenging age. Neither child nor teenager caught in between." "Exactly," Ariel agreed, warming her hands on the mug. "Some days she needs me to hold her while she cries, and other days she can barely stand to be in the same room with me." The rain continued to pour, creating a cozy cocoon around their conversation. Ariel found herself relaxing into the comfortable couch, the warmth of the tea spreading through her. "Those are beautiful," she said, noticing a vase of simple white daisies on the coffee table. Julian followed her gaze. "Do you like daisies?" "They're my favorite, actually. Not too showy, but they have their own quiet beauty." Julian smiled that transformative smile again. "I agree. They're honest flowers." There was something about the way he said it, equating flowers with honesty, that struck Ariel as both odd and endearing. She found herself wondering who exactly Julian Everhart was. He seemed too thoughtful to be just another wealthy man with a big house and no one to share it with. "What do you do, Julian? For work, I mean." A shadow passed over his face so quickly she almost missed it. "I used to write novels. Now I mostly consult for tech companies. From here, though, I don't go into offices." The pieces suddenly clicked together in Ariel's mind. "Wait, Julian Everhart, the Julian Everhart you wrote Shadows on Glass and The Bridge to Nowhere?" He looked down at his mug, seeming almost embarrassed. "A lifetime ago, yes." "I loved those books," Ariel said, genuinely excited. "My book club read Shadows on Glass last year. We spent 3 meetings just talking about the ending." Julian looked up, a spark of interest in his eyes. "What did you think of it?" "The ending?" "It broke my heart," Ariel admitted. "But in the best way, it felt real." "That's exactly what I was hoping for," Julian said softly. "Reality isn't neat and tidy. What are you working on now?" "It's been a while since your last book came out." Julian's gaze drifted to the typewriter on the desk across the room. "I've been rewriting the same novel for 3 years. I can't seem to get it right." "What's it about?" "A man who loses everything that matters and has to figure out if what's left is worth holding on to." His voice had dropped to nearly a whisper. Something in his tone made Ariel wonder if he was talking about more than just a novel. Before she could respond, her phone chimed from where she'd plugged it in. The sound broke the spell of their conversation. "Oh, I should check that." Ariel stood and retrieved her now partially charged phone. There were 3 missed calls from her boss, and a text asking where she was with the Morrison delivery. "I'm really behind now. I should go." Julian stood too, looking oddly disappointed. "Of course. I've kept you too long." "No, not at all." The tea was perfect, and it was nice to take a break from the rain. Ariel gathered her things and picked up the grocery bags by the door. "What should I do with these? The Morrisons aren't there, and they've already been paid for." Julian looked at the bags thoughtfully. "Keep them, or I could take them off your hands if that would help. Would you?" "That would be great, actually. I'd have to figure out what to do with them otherwise." She handed the bags to him, and their fingers brushed briefly. Ariel felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. Julian walked her to the door. As she was about to step out onto the porch, he said, "Ariel?" She turned back. "Yes?" "You're the first person who's come here and made it feel like home." His voice was quiet, almost vulnerable. Ariel didn't know how to respond to such an intimate admission from someone she'd just met. But something about his gentle honesty touched her. "Thank you for the tea, Julian." And the conversation. She hurried through the rain to her car, groceries forgotten, her mind replaying their conversation. As she drove away, she glanced in her rearview mirror. Julian stood in the doorway of his beautiful, lonely house, watching her go. 4 days later, Ariel was sorting through delivery schedules at Pine Grove Grocers when her boss, Mike, called her over. "Ariel, we got a new client yesterday. Big order. Requested you specifically for delivery." He handed her a printed form. "Some guy named Everhard up on Cedar Crest Drive. Says he wants weekly deliveries, always on Tuesdays when you're working. Specifically asked for in-person delivery, whatever that means." Ariel felt her cheeks grow warm as she looked down at the form. There was Julian's address and a substantial grocery order. "Do you know him?" Mike asked, noticing her reaction. "We met briefly," she said, trying to sound casual. "I accidentally went to his house when my phone died during that big storm last week." Mike raised an eyebrow, but didn't press further. "Well, he's paying a premium for the personal service, so make sure he gets it." The following Tuesday, Ariel found herself driving up the cedar-lined driveway again, this time intentionally. Her heart beat a little faster as she parked and carried the groceries to the door. She rang twice and waited. Julian opened the door, and Ariel was struck again by how different he looked from what she might expect of a famous novelist turned tech millionaire. His hair was still slightly messy, and he wore a simple blue button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled to the elbows, and jeans. "Hello, Ariel," he said, his smile genuine and warm. "I was hoping you'd be the one to come." "You specifically requested me," she replied with a small smile. "Not many delivery options after that." He laughed, and the sound was rich and pleasant. "Very true. Please come in, I've got the kettle on." As Ariel stepped inside, carrying the grocery bags, she knew she should just drop them off and leave. That would be the professional thing to do. But when Julian looked at her with those kind blue eyes and asked, "Chamomile again? Or would you like to try the Earl Grey?" she found herself wanting to stay. "Earl Grey sounds perfect," she said, setting the bags down on the kitchen counter. "But just for a few minutes, I have other deliveries." Julian nodded, but his eyes lit up with something that looked very much like hope. "A few minutes is all I'm asking for." And as they settled into what was becoming their spot, Ariel on the couch, Julian in the armchair, the forest visible through the windows, she realized that she was hoping for those few minutes too. "Tell me about your niece," Julian said, handing her a fresh mug of tea. "Lily, right?" Ariel nodded, surprised he remembered. "She's having a hard time at school. Middle school can be cruel, and kids don't always know what to say to someone who's lost a parent." Julian's expression grew thoughtful. "What does she like? Books, music?" "Both, actually. She plays violin, not very well yet, but she loves it. And she reads everything she can get her hands on. Fantasy, mostly." "I may have some books she'd enjoy," Julian said, gesturing to the built-in bookshelves that lined one wall. "If you wouldn't mind bringing them to her." "That's very kind of you," Ariel said, touched by the offer. As they talked, Ariel found herself opening up more than she had with anyone in a long time. She told Julian about her job, her small apartment, her mother's health struggles, and the challenge of suddenly becoming a parent figure to Lily. He listened with genuine interest. asking thoughtful questions and never making her feel judged for her modest life. When she asked about his work, Julian was more reserved, but he did share that he'd stepped back from public life after a personal loss. "Is that why you haven't published anything new?" she asked gently. Julian's eyes met hers, and there was pain there, but also something like relief at being asked directly. "Partly. I found it hard to write truth after everything. And if I can't tell the truth through my fiction, what's the point?" "What happened?" Ariel asked, then immediately backtracked. "I'm sorry, that's too personal. You don't have to answer." "No, it's all right," Julian said, his voice steady but quiet. "My wife and daughter died in an accident 4 years ago. After that, I couldn't face the publicity, the questions, the sympathy. I withdrew from everything." Ariel felt her heart contract with empathy. "I'm so sorry, Julian." "I can't imagine how difficult that must have been." "It still is," he admitted. "Every day, but talking to you, it's the first time in years I've wanted to share that with someone new." The admission hung in the air between them, weighty and significant. Ariel looked at her watch and realized she'd been there for nearly an hour. "I really have to go," she said reluctantly. "I'm way behind schedule." Julian nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Will you come back next Tuesday, even if it's just to drop off groceries?" "I'll be here," she promised, and was rewarded with that transformative smile that made his whole face light up. As Ariel drove away, she couldn't help but think about Julian's story, his loss, his isolation, and the way he'd invited her into his quiet world. She'd only known him for a week, but somehow it felt important, like something was beginning. What she didn't know was that their connection was about to become more complicated than either of them could imagine. The next few weeks fell into a pattern that Ariel found herself looking forward to more than she cared to admit. Every Tuesday, she would deliver Julian's groceries, and every Tuesday he would have tea waiting. What started as brief conversations stretched into hours, and Ariel found herself rearranging her delivery schedule to make Julian's house her last stop of the day. Today, as she drove up the now familiar driveway, she noticed something different. A sleek black car was parked outside Julian's house. In the month she'd been coming here, she'd never seen another vehicle. Her stomach tightened. With unexpected disappointment, of course Julian had other visitors, why wouldn't he? He was a successful, wealthy man, even if he did prefer solitude. She parked and carried the grocery bags to the door, pressing the bell twice as usual. After a moment, Julian opened the door, his expression lighting up when he saw her. "Ariel," he said, relief evident in his voice. "Come in, please." She stepped inside and immediately sensed tension in the air. A woman in an expensive-looking grey suit stood by the windows, her arms crossed. She was beautiful in a polished, perfect way, with straight blonde hair cut in a sharp bob and keen eyes that assessed Ariel quickly. "I didn't mean to interrupt," Ariel said, feeling suddenly self-conscious in her Pine Grove grocer's uniform. "You're not interrupting," Julian assured her, taking the grocery bags. "Ariel, this is Vanessa Crane, my literary agent. Vanessa, this is Ariel Benton." Vanessa's professionally pleasant smile didn't reach her eyes. "So you're the grocery delivery person Julian's mentioned. How nice to put a face to the service." Ariel felt the subtle sting in the woman's words. "Nice to meet you too," she replied, keeping her voice even. Julian cleared his throat. "Vanessa was just leaving." "Was I?" Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "Julian, we're not finished discussing this. You can't just ignore them forever. Marcus is getting impatient." "We're finished for today," Julian said firmly, his jaw tightening. "I'll think about what you said, but I need time." Vanessa sighed dramatically and picked up a designer handbag from the couch. "You've had 4 years of time, Julian. The world has moved on. Maybe you should too." She turned to Ariel with a tight smile. "It was enlightening to meet you, Ms. Benton. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other again." After Vanessa left, a heavy silence filled the room. Julian ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Ariel had come to recognize as a sign of stress. "I'm sorry about that," he said, moving to the kitchen to put away the groceries. "Vanessa can be intense." Ariel followed him, leaning against the doorframe. "She seems concerned about you." Julian gave a short laugh. "Vanessa is concerned about my next book and the money it will make her. She's been pushing me to finish the manuscript I've been working on. And you don't want to finish it? Julian paused, a can of soup in his hand. It's not that simple. I've rewritten it so many times, but it never feels right. And there's pressure for me to do publicity, interviews, social media, all the things I've avoided for the past 4 years. That sounds difficult, Ariel said gently. What's the book about? Maybe talking about it would help. Julian put the groceries away and motioned for her to follow him to the living room. As they settled into their usual spots, he looked more troubled than she'd ever seen him. It's about loss, he said finally. About a man trying to rebuild his life after losing everything that gave it meaning. He looked out at the forest, his profile sharp against the glass. I started it after Sharon and Emily died, my wife and daughter, he added, though Ariel remembered. It was supposed to be cathartic, but instead, it just keeps reopening wounds. Ariel felt her heart ache for him. Maybe it's too close to your own experience. Maybe, he agreed, his voice soft. Or maybe I just haven't found the right ending yet. Something in his expression made Ariel want to reach out, to offer comfort, but she remained in her seat. Their relationship, whatever it was, had boundaries, and she wasn't sure where they stood. The books you gave me for Lily were a hit. By the way, she said, changing the subject to something lighter. She's already finished 2 of them. Julian smiled, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. I'm glad. I have more for her when she's ready. How is she doing with the violin? She has a recital next week. She's nervous but excited. It's the first big event since her mom died that she's actually looked forward to. That's wonderful progress, Julian said. You're doing a good job with her, Ariel. His sincere praise warmed her. I'm trying. It's not always easy being the substitute mom. I worry I'm not enough. From everything you've told me, you're exactly what she needs, Julian assured her. You're stable, caring, and you're there every day. That matters more than you know. As their conversation continued, Ariel felt herself relaxing into the comfortable familiarity they'd developed. There was something about Julian that made her feel both seen and accepted, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Would you like to stay for dinner? Julian asked suddenly. I make a decent pasta carbonara. Ariel hesitated. Their tea-time conversations were one thing, but dinner felt like crossing a line she wasn't sure she was ready for. I should probably get back to Lily, she said, not entirely truthfully. Her mother was watching Lily tonight, and they weren't expecting Ariel until later. Maybe another time. Was that disappointment she saw flicker across Julian's face? If so, he masked it. Quickly, of course, he said with a gentle smile. The offer stands any time. As Ariel drove home, her mind kept drifting back to Julian. His troubled expression when discussing his book, the warmth in his eyes when he talked about Lily, the way he looked at Ariel as if she was something precious. It was dangerous territory. Julian Everhard lived in a world entirely different from hers, regardless of how comfortable their conversations had become. The following Tuesday, Ariel arrived at Julian's house to find him standing on the porch waiting for her, a rare smile on his face. I have something to show you, he said as soon as she stepped out of her car. He seemed almost boyishly excited. Ariel couldn't help but smile in response. What is it? Leave the groceries for now, he said, taking her hand without thinking. The casual contact sent a surprising jolt through Ariel, but Julian didn't seem to notice as he led her around the side of the house to a small garden she hadn't seen before. There, in a sunny patch, was a new flower bed filled with white and yellow daisies. You said they were your favorite, Julian explained, suddenly looking a bit unsure of himself. I thought I wanted to see them grow here. Ariel was speechless. The gesture was so unexpected, so thoughtful, that she felt a lump form in her throat. Julian, they're beautiful, she said finally. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, he replied, his eyes fixed on her face. Seeing your reaction is enough. They stood there among the daisies, and Ariel felt something shift between them, a quiet acknowledgement that their Tuesday meetings had become more than just friendly conversations. Back inside, as they settled with their tea, Julian seemed more relaxed than he had been since the day Vanessa visited. I wrote today, he said. Really wrote, for the first time in months. That's wonderful, Ariel replied. What changed? Julian looked at her thoughtfully. I think I finally realized what the story was missing. And what was that? Hope, he said simply. My character was stuck in his grief just like I was, but today I could suddenly see a way forward for him. Ariel felt a warmth spread through her chest. I'm glad, Julian. Your readers have missed your voice. Speaking of voices, Julian said, isn't Lily's recital this week? Ariel nodded. Tomorrow night, actually. She's nervous, but she's ready. I'm sure she'll be wonderful, Julian said. He hesitated, then added, I'd love to hear how it goes. I'll tell you all about it next week, Ariel promised. As their conversation continued, she found herself wishing she could invite Julian to come hear Lily play, but that felt like crossing yet another line, introducing him to her family, bringing their separate worlds together. The next evening, as Ariel sat with her mother in the middle school auditorium, waiting for Lily's performance, her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number, wishing Lily all the best tonight. I'm sure she'll play beautifully. Ariel stared at her phone, surprised. She hadn't given Julian her number. Before she could wonder how he got it, Lily walked onto the stage with the other young violinists, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing the blue dress they'd picked out together. Despite her nerves, Lily played her part in the ensemble piece without a single mistake. Ariel felt tears prick her eyes with pride. After the recital, as they were walking to the car, Lily, clutching the small bouquet of flowers Ariel had brought her, Ariel's phone buzzed again. If it's not too late when you're done, I'd love to hear how it went. I'm up late most nights. Ariel hesitated, then replied. She was perfect, not a single wrong note. I'll call you when I get home. Later that night, after Lily had gone to bed, still buzzing with excitement from her successful performance, Ariel called Julian. Their conversation lasted over an hour, easy and comfortable. Julian asked questions about the recital, about Lily's reaction, and seemed genuinely interested in every detail. As they were about to hang up, Julian said, I have a question for you, Ariel. It's a bit forward, and please feel free to say no. Ariel felt her heartbeat quicken. What is it? I need to attend a charity event this weekend, my first public appearance in years. Vanessa insists it will help ease me back into the public eye before my book release. I was wondering, would you consider coming with me as my guest? Ariel was speechless. Going to a public event with Julian Everhart was definitely crossing lines. It would mean being seen with him, photographed perhaps. It would mean stepping into his world. I understand if you'd rather not, Julian added quickly. It's a lot to ask. No, it's not that, Ariel said, finding her voice. I'm not sure I'd fit in at that kind of event, Julian. You would be there with me, he said softly. That's all that matters. There was something in his voice, a gentle plea, a quiet hope, that made Ariel's resistance waver. When is it? She asked finally. Saturday evening. It's a fundraiser for children's literacy at the Grand Hotel downtown. Julian paused. I wouldn't ask if I didn't really want you there, Ariel. Okay, she said, surprising herself. I'll come with you. The relief and happiness in Julian's voice when he thanked her made her smile. After they hung up, Ariel sat on her small balcony, looking out at the city lights in the distance, wondering what she'd just agreed to. Saturday arrived too quickly. Ariel stood in front of her closet, panicking slightly. She had nothing appropriate for a high society charity event. Her nicest dress was a simple black sheath she'd worn to a cousin's wedding 2 years ago. It would have to do. Her mother, who was staying with Lily for the evening, watched with curiosity as Ariel applied makeup more carefully than usual. Who did you say you were going out with tonight? She asked, a knowing glint in her eye. Just a friend, Ariel replied evasively. The event is for children's literacy. Her mother raised an eyebrow, but didn't press further. Well, you look beautiful, sweetheart. Julian had arranged for a car to pick Ariel up, not wanting her to have to worry about parking downtown. As the sleek black sedan pulled up to her modest apartment building, she felt a moment of panic. What was she doing? This wasn't her world. She didn't belong at fancy charity events with famous authors and wealthy donors. But when she arrived at the Grand Hotel and saw Julian waiting for her in the lobby, All her doubts vanished. He looked handsome in a tailored dark suit. But what struck her most was his expression when he saw her, a mixture of relief, admiration, and something deeper that made her heart flutter. "You came," he said, taking both her hands in his. "I said I would," she replied with a small smile. "You look beautiful, Ariel." "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." Julian laughed, a sound she'd come to treasure. "Shall we?" he asked, offering his arm. As they entered the ballroom together, Ariel was acutely aware of the curious glances cast their way. Julian Everhart, the reclusive author who hadn't been seen in public for years, was attending a social event, and with a woman no one recognized. Vanessa appeared almost immediately, her surprise at seeing Ariel poorly disguised. "Julian, darling, you made it," she said, kissing him on both cheeks. "And you brought Miss Benton, how unexpected." "Ariel was kind enough to accompany me tonight," Julian said firmly, his hand resting lightly on the small of Ariel's back. "She's my guest, Vanessa." Vanessa's lips thinned slightly. "Of course, well, there are several people you need to meet. Marcus Thompson is here from Horizon Publishing, and the CEO of Next Page Digital specifically asked to speak with you." Julian's posture stiffened, but he nodded. "I'll speak with them briefly. But first, I'd like to get Ariel a drink. We'll find you in a few minutes." As Vanessa walked away, Julian leaned close to Ariel. "I'm sorry about that. Vanessa is protective of my image." "It's okay," Ariel assured him, though she felt out of place among the designer gowns and expensive jewelry surrounding them. "I understand. This is your world, not mine." Julian's eyes held hers intently. "Tonight it's our world, and I'm grateful you're here with me. I couldn't have faced this alone." As the evening progressed, Ariel watched Julian navigate the social waters with a quiet grace that impressed her. He was polite but distant with those who pressed him about his next book, warmer with fellow authors who seemed to understand his absence, and genuinely engaged with the organizers of the literacy program the event was supporting. Throughout it all, he kept Ariel close, introducing her simply as "my friend Ariel," without explanation or apology, his hand occasionally finding hers, or resting gently at her waist. As they stood near the edge of the room, taking a break from the constant socializing, a photographer approached them. "Mr. Everhart, could I get a photo for the event press release?" Julian hesitated, then nodded. "Just one." The photographer raised his camera, and Julian put his arm around Ariel's waist, drawing her close to his side. She looked up at him, momentarily forgetting the camera, struck by the vulnerability in his expression. "Thank you for being here," he whispered, just before the flash went off. Later that night, as they stood outside Ariel's apartment building, Julian took both her hands in his. "Tonight meant more to me than I can express," he said, his voice low and sincere. "Having you there made something I've dreaded for years actually bearable, pleasant even." Ariel smiled. "I'm glad I could help. It wasn't as intimidating as I thought it would be." Julian's eyes searched her face. "Ariel, just these past weeks getting to know you, it's woken something in me I thought was gone forever." His hands tightened slightly around hers, and he took a step closer. Ariel could feel her heart racing, knowing what might come next and not sure if she was ready for it. "Julian," she said, softly, "I don't belong in that world. Tonight was lovely, but it's not real life. Not my real life, anyway." "I don't care about worlds or social divides," Julian replied, his gaze intense. "I care about you. About how I feel when I'm with you." Before she could respond, his phone rang, breaking the moment. Julian sighed and released her hands to check the caller. "It's Vanessa," he said. "I should take this. She wouldn't call this late unless it was important." Ariel nodded, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment. "Of course. Go ahead." Julian answered the call, his expression changing from annoyance to concern as he listened. "When?" he asked sharply. "How many?" A pause. "I see. Thanks for letting me know." He hung up and turned to Ariel, his face grim. "That photo of us from tonight. It's already online, and several gossip sites have picked it up. Reclusive author. Julian Everhart's mystery woman is trending." Ariel felt a cold wave of anxiety wash over her. What does that mean? It means, Julian said heavily, that by tomorrow they'll know who you are, and our private little world is about to become very public. As if on cue, her phone chimed with a text from her boss at Pine Grove Grocers. Is that you with Julian Everhart on celebwatch.com? Call me ASAP. Ariel looked up at Julian, her stomach knotting with worry. What do we do now? I'm so sorry, Ariel, Julian said, reaching for her hand again. I never meant for this to happen. But whatever comes next, we'll face it together. I promise. As she watched his car drive away a few minutes later, Ariel couldn't shake the feeling that their quiet Tuesday afternoons had just come to an end. Something new and uncertain was beginning, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. Inside her apartment, she opened her laptop and searched Julian's name. Sure enough, there was the photo. Julian looking at her with undisguised tenderness, and Ariel gazing up at him with an expression that revealed more than she'd realized she was feeling. The headline read, "Literary recluse Julian Everhart emerges from seclusion with unknown woman." In the comments section below, speculation was already running wild. Who was she? A new girlfriend? A publicist? An inspiration for his next novel? Ariel closed the laptop, her mind racing. What had she gotten herself into? Ariel woke to the insistent buzzing of her phone. It was barely 7 a.m., but she already had 12 text messages and 4 missed calls. 3 were from her mother, 1 from her boss, and the rest from co-workers and friends she hadn't spoken to in months. Everyone had seen the photo. With a sigh, she got out of bed and shuffled to the kitchen to make coffee. Before she could take her first sip, there was a knock at her door. Looking through the peephole, she was surprised to see Mike, her boss, from Pine Grove Grocers, standing in the hallway. She opened the door, clutching her coffee mug like a shield. "Mike, what are you doing here?" Mike, a balding man in his 50s with perpetually worried eyes, held up his tablet. On the screen was the photo of her and Julian from last night, but now it was on the front page of the local news site with the headline, "Local woman captures heart of billionaire author Julian Everhart." "Is this really you?" Mike asked, his voice a mixture of awe and concern. "Yes," Ariel admitted, stepping back to let him in. "But it's not what it looks like." "I mean, we're friends. He's a client." Mike raised his eyebrows. "A client who takes you to charity galas and looks at you like that?" He pointed to the photo. Ariel felt her cheeks warm. "It's complicated. Look, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but I didn't think it was a big deal." Mike sat down heavily on her small couch. "Ariel, Julian Everhart is one of the wealthiest men in the state. His books have sold millions of copies, and no one has seen him in public for years. This is a very big deal." "What does this mean for my job?" Ariel asked, suddenly worried. "Am I in trouble?" Mike's expression softened. "No, not at all. In fact, the owner wants to offer you a promotion. Our delivery service to Mr. Everhart has been getting attention. We've already had 3 new clients sign up this morning, all requesting the Everhart package." "The what?" "Premium delivery service, personal shopper, the works. It's what you've been doing for him, right?" Ariel shook her head in disbelief. "Mike, I've just been delivering his groceries and sometimes staying for tea." "Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. The owner wants to make you our VIP client relations manager. It comes with a significant raise." Ariel sat down, stunned. "All because of a photo? All because you somehow managed to turn our highest profile client into free advertising for our business?" Before Ariel could respond, her phone rang again. "Julian, I need to take this," she told Mike. He nodded and stood up. "Think about the promotion. We can talk details tomorrow." After Mike left, Ariel answered the phone. "Julian? Ariel, I'm so sorry about all this," Julian said, his voice strained. "I had no idea it would blow up like this." "It's okay," she assured him, though she wasn't entirely sure that was true. "Actually, my boss just offered me a promotion because of it. That's good, I suppose." Julian sounded uncertain. "But there's more. They found your address." Ariel felt a chill. "Who did?" "Reporters, photographers. They're probably already on their way. They'll want to know everything about you, about us." As if on cue, Ariel heard a car door slam outside her building. She went to the window and peered out. A man with a camera was standing on the sidewalk looking up at the building. "There's already someone outside," she said, her voice tight. Julian's sigh was heavy with guilt. "I was afraid of this. Listen, pack a bag. I'm sending a car for you. You can stay at my place until this dies down." "Julian, I can't just leave. I have work, and Lily—" "Bring Lily too if you want. There's plenty of room. Please, Ariel. I got you into this mess. Let me help." Ariel looked around her small apartment, thinking of the reporters who would soon be camped outside, the phone that wouldn't stop ringing, the questions she wasn't ready to answer. "Okay," she said finally. "When will the car be here?" 20 minutes. Pack whatever you need. For a few days. Use the back exit of your building if you can." After hanging up, Ariel moved quickly. She called her mother to explain the situation, packed a small suitcase, and texted Julian that she'd pick up Lily from her mom's later, once she figured out how long she'd be staying. True to his word, a sleek black car with tinted windows pulled up to the back of her building exactly 20 minutes later. The driver helped her with her bag, and they pulled away just as 2 more vehicles with camera equipment arrived at the front entrance. When they reached Julian's house, he was waiting on the porch. As soon as Ariel stepped out of the car, he rushed to her side. "I'm so sorry about all of this," he said, taking her hands in his. "Are you all right?" Ariel nodded, suddenly feeling overwhelmed. "It's just so surreal. Yesterday I was just Ariel, the grocery delivery person. Today I'm all over the internet." Julian led her inside, his hand protective at the small of her back. "The frenzy will die down in a few days. My lawyers are already calling the more aggressive outlets, reminding them about privacy laws." Inside the house, Ariel was surprised to see Vanessa sitting in the living room, her face tight with barely contained frustration. "Ms. Benton," she said coolly, "what a situation we find ourselves in." Vanessa came over to discuss PR strategy. Julian explained, his tone making it clear he wasn't happy about it. "PR strategy?" Ariel repeated. Vanessa stood, tablet in hand. "Yes, we need to control the narrative. Right now, every gossip blog in the country is speculating about your relationship with Julian. Some are calling you a gold digger. Others are portraying you as his muse. We need to decide what story we're putting out there." Ariel felt her temper flare. "There is no story. Julian and I are friends. That's it." Vanessa's eyebrow arched, skeptically. "Friends don't look at each other the way you two do in that photo. The public isn't stupid." "That's enough, Vanessa," Julian said sharply. "Ariel isn't part of some PR strategy. She's here because I asked her to come, and I won't. Have you treating her like she's a problem to be managed?" Vanessa's professional mask slipped for a moment, revealing genuine concern. "Julian, you've been out of the public eye for 4 years. This is your first appearance, and it's with a woman no one knows. People will talk. They'll dig. They'll want to know everything about her, about you, about Sharon and Emily." At the mention of his late wife and daughter, Julian's face hardened. "My family is not up for public discussion." "Then what is?" Vanessa countered. "Because something has to be. The book release is in 2 months. Your publisher is already talking about moving up the date to capitalize on this attention. Like it or not, you're back in the spotlight and Ms. Benton is there with you." Ariel looked between them, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. "Maybe I should leave you two to discuss this." "No," Julian said firmly, moving to stand beside her. "This involves you too. Vanessa, whatever strategy you come up with needs to respect Ariel's privacy and her choice in how much she wants to be involved." Vanessa sighed, some of the fight going out of her. "Fine, but we need to issue some kind of statement. The silence is only fueling speculation." Julian turned to Ariel, his expression softening. "What do you think? It's your call." Ariel felt the weight of both their gazes. "I think a simple statement might help. Just confirming that we're friends, nothing more or less, and asking for privacy." Julian nodded. "Draft something along those lines, Vanessa. We'll review it before you send it out." Vanessa began typing on her tablet, her professional demeanor back in place. "I'll have something for you in an hour. In the meantime, Ms. Benton, I'd advise you not to answer any calls from numbers you don't recognize and stay off social media." After Vanessa left to work in Julian's office, he and Ariel sat in the living room, an awkward silence between them. "I'm sorry you got pulled into all this," Julian said finally. "I've been hiding from the world for so long, I forgot how invasive it can be." "It's not your fault," Ariel assured him. "I chose to go with you last night." Julian's gaze was intense. "Are you sorry you did?" Ariel considered the question carefully. Despite the chaos it had unleashed, the memory of last night, of Julian's arm around her waist, his eyes finding hers across crowded rooms, the quiet conversations in corners where they created their own private world, still made her heart beat faster. "No," she said honestly, "I'm not sorry." Relief washed over Julian's face. He reached for her hand, his fingers entwining with hers. "When this dies down, we should talk about what's happening between us. Because I think we both know it's more than friendship, Ariel." Before she could respond, Julian's phone rang. He answered it, his expression darkening as he listened. "When?" he asked sharply. "How did they—" He was cut off by whatever the person on the other end was saying. "Yes, I understand. Thank you for letting me know." He hung up and turned to Ariel, his face grim. "That was my security team. Someone leaked your connection to Lily and your mother. There are reporters at your mother's house asking questions about us." Ariel felt a surge of panic. "I need to get Lily. My mom won't know how to handle this. Let me send my driver. He can bring them both here where it's safe. But Lily has school, and my mom has doctor's appointments." Julian took her hands in his. "Just for a few days until we can get this under control, please, Ariel. I don't want your family harassed because of me." Ariel nodded, recognizing the sense in his suggestion. Within an hour, Julian's driver had returned with Lily and Ariel's mother, both looking bewildered by the sudden turn of events. Lily, at 12, was wide-eyed with curiosity as she entered Julian's spectacular house. "You live here?" she asked, her voice filled with awe. Julian smiled, his earlier tension easing somewhat. "I do. Would you like a tour?" While Julian showed Lily around, Ariel's mother pulled her aside, her expression worried. "Ariel, what is going on?" "There were photographers at my house asking if you're engaged to Julian Everhart." Ariel sighed. "We're not engaged, Mom. We're friends. Maybe a little more than that, I don't know. But it got blown out of proportion after we were photographed together at a charity event." Her mother's eyes were skeptical. "Friends? The way he looks at you in that photo doesn't say friends to me. And now he's brought us to stay in his mansion. That's not something friends typically do." "It's complicated," Ariel admitted. "We've been getting close over the past few weeks, but we haven't really defined what this is." Her mother's expression softened. "Well, whatever it is, he seems like a good man. The way he talked to Lily in the car, asking about her violin and her favorite books. He was genuinely interested, not just making conversation." Ariel felt a warmth in her chest at her mother's words. "He is a good man. He's been through a lot." "So have you," her mother reminded her. "Maybe that's what draws you to each other." Later that evening, after dinner, which Julian had cooked himself, impressing both Lily and Ariel's mother, they sat in the living room. Lily was engrossed in a book Julian had recommended, while Ariel's mother had retired early to one of the guest rooms, tired from the excitement of the day. "Your family is wonderful," Julian said quietly, sitting beside Ariel on the couch. "Lily is so bright and curious. She likes you," Ariel replied with a smile. "She's already asked if she can come back to Mr. Julian's library, even after we go home." A shadow crossed Julian's face. "About that, Vanessa called while you were helping your mother settle in. The press release hasn't done much to calm the frenzy. If anything, it's made them more curious." "What does that mean for us?" Julian ran a hand through his hair. "It means they're digging deeper, looking into your past, my past, speculating about our relationship. There's already a story online about how we met. They've twisted it into some romantic fairy tale about a billionaire falling for the girl who delivers his groceries." Despite the seriousness of the situation, Ariel couldn't help a small laugh. "Well, that's not entirely untrue, is it?" Julian's expression softened and he reached for her hand. "No, I suppose not. But the reality is so much more than their simplistic version." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both aware of Lily's presence preventing a more intimate conversation. Julian, Ariel said finally, her voice low. What happens next? For us, I mean. Not the press or the book or any of that. Just us. Julian's eyes met hers, intense and sincere. What happens next is whatever we want to happen, Ariel. I know this isn't how either of us planned things to unfold, but now that you're here, now that I've seen you with your family in my home, it feels right. It feels like what I've been missing. Ariel felt her heart racing. Julian, I'm falling in love with you, he said simply, the words quiet but clear. I think I started falling the day you rang my doorbell by mistake. I don't expect you to feel the same, not yet, but I wanted you to know. Before Ariel could respond, Lily closed her book and looked up. Ariel, can Mr. Julian show me the music room again? He said he has violin music I might like. The moment broken, Julian smiled at Lily. Of course, let's go see what we can. Find? He gave Ariel's hand a gentle squeeze before standing to lead Lily toward another part of the house. Left alone, Ariel tried to process Julian's words. Love. He was falling in love with her. The realization should have terrified her, but instead it filled her with a warm certainty. Because the truth was, she was falling too. The next morning, Ariel woke early. The guest room Julian had given her was more luxurious than any hotel she'd ever stayed in. With a balcony overlooking the forest, she stepped outside, breathing in the cool morning air, trying to make sense of how drastically her life had changed in just 24 hours. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Julian, already dressed, holding 2 mugs of coffee. I hope I didn't wake you, he said, offering her one of the mugs. I thought you might want this. Thank you, she said, accepting the coffee gratefully. Is everyone else still asleep? Julian nodded. Your mother and Lily are still resting. I thought maybe we could talk before they wake up. Ariel stepped aside to let him in. They moved to the balcony, sitting in the comfortable chairs overlooking the forest. About last night, Julian began, his voice gentle. What I said, I don't want you to feel pressured or I'm falling in love with you too, Ariel interrupted, surprising herself with her boldness. I think I have been for weeks. I just didn't want to admit it because it seemed so impossible. Julian's face lit up with a joy she'd never seen before. Why impossible? Look at us, Julian, you're a famous, wealthy author. I deliver groceries. We come from completely different worlds. Julian reached across the small table between them, taking her hand. Different worlds, maybe, but the same heart, the same understanding of loss, of loneliness, of what it means to find someone who sees you, really sees you. Ariel felt tears prick her eyes. But now there's all this attention, all these complications. Your career, my job, Lily, it's a lot to navigate. We'll navigate it together, Julian promised. One day at a time. Before she could respond, Julian's phone rang. He glanced at it and sighed. It's Vanessa again. I should take this. He answered the call, his expression growing increasingly troubled as he listened. When did this happen? He asked sharply. How bad is it? After a few more minutes, he hung up, his face grim. What is it? Ariel asked, concerned. They found out about Sharon and Emily, Julian said, his voice tight with pain. Someone at the hospital leaked details about the accident. It's all over the tabloids. Not just that they died, but graphic details about the crash, speculation, about whether I was driving, whether I could have prevented it. Ariel moved to his side instantly, taking both his hands in hers. Julian, I'm so sorry, that's horrible. Julian's eyes were haunted. I've protected their memory for 4 years, kept the details private, and now it's all out there, twisted and sensationalized. What can I do? Ariel asked softly. Julian looked at her, anguish and love mingling in his gaze. Just stay, please. I can face anything if you're here. Ariel wrapped her arms around him, holding him close as he buried his face in her shoulder. They stayed that way for a long time, the morning sun rising higher above the trees, casting long shadows across the balcony. Eventually, Julian pulled back, composed once more. Vanessa thinks I should do an interview. Tell my side before the speculation gets worse. Is that what you want? Julian considered the question seriously. No, but it might be necessary, not just for me, but for Sharon and Emily's memory. For their parents who are probably being harassed too. Whatever you decide, I'll support you, Ariel promised. Julian's eyes searched hers. Would you consider doing it with me? Not to talk about them, but to address the rumors about us to help deflect some of the attention from my family's tragedy. Ariel hesitated. The thought of being interviewed on camera, of having her relationship with Julian dissected publicly, was intimidating. But seeing the pain in his eyes, knowing how much he'd suffered and how hard he'd worked to protect his privacy, she couldn't refuse. Yes, she said firmly. If it will help, I'll do it. Relief washed over Julian's face. He leaned forward, his hand gently cupping her cheek. Thank you, he whispered, and then his lips were on hers, a soft, tender kiss that felt like coming home. When they separated, Julian rested his forehead against hers. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Together, Ariel agreed, and in that moment, despite all the complications and challenges ahead, she felt a certainty deep in her soul that this was right, that she and Julian, against all odds, had found something real and precious in each other. What neither of them knew was that the interview would bring consequences neither could have anticipated and test their newfound love in ways they couldn't imagine. 3 days later, Ariel sat in a dressing room at the studio of National Morning, the country's most watched morning news program. A makeup artist was finishing her foundation while a stylist arranged her hair. In the mirror, Ariel barely recognized herself. Polished, sophisticated, wearing a designer outfit Vanessa had insisted on. 5 minutes, Ms. Benton. A production assistant said, poking her head in the door. Ariel nodded, her stomach churning with nerves. Julian had spent the morning in pre-interview meetings with Vanessa and the show's producers, hammering out what topics were off-limits. Ariel hadn't been included in those discussions, which made her even more anxious about what might be asked. A gentle knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Julian entered, looking handsome but tense in a tailored suit. "How are you holding up?" he asked, coming to stand behind her chair. Terrified, she admitted with a nervous laugh. "I've never done anything like this before." Julian placed his hands on her shoulders, their eyes meeting in the mirror. "You'll be wonderful, just be yourself. That's who I fell in love with after all." Ariel reached up to cover one of his hands with hers. "What did you and Vanessa work out with the producers? They've agreed not to ask specifics about the accident. They can ask about Sharon and Emily generally, but not how they died. And they won't ask about your sister's death either." Ariel felt a rush of gratitude that he'd thought to protect her family's privacy too. "Thank you for that." Julian squeezed her shoulders gently. "They'll ask about how we met, about our relationship. Are you comfortable with that?" "Yes," Ariel said with growing confidence. "I'm not ashamed of anything about us. Are you?" Julian turned her chair to face him, kneeling to be at eye level with her. "Ariel, meeting you has been the best thing to happen to me in 4 years. I would shout it from the rooftops if I could." His sincerity melted away the last of her doubts. Whatever happened in this interview, whatever the public reaction, they would face it together. The production assistant returned. "Mr. Everhart, Miss Benton, we're ready for you." As they walked onto the set, past the bright lights and cables, Ariel felt Julian's hand find hers, his touch steady and reassuring. The host, Diane Foster, greeted them warmly, and microphones were clipped to their clothing. "We're on in 3, 2, 1. The floor director counted down, and then the cameras were rolling. "Good morning, America," Diane began with practiced charm. "Today, we have a very special exclusive interview with renowned author Julian Everhart, breaking his 4-year silence since the tragic death of his wife and daughter. And joining him is Ariel Benton, the woman whose unexpected appearance in his life has captivated the nation's attention. Julian, Ariel, thank you for being here." Julian nodded, his public persona in place, polite but reserved. "Thanks you for having us, Diane. Julian, let me start with you. 4 years is a long time to be away from the public eye. What made you decide to step back into the spotlight now?" Julian glanced at Ariel, a small smile softening his expression. "It wasn't a conscious decision, actually. Meeting Ariel, it changed things for me. made me realize it was time to rejoin the world. Diane turned to Ariel. And Ariel, for our viewers who don't know, you work as a grocery delivery person. Is that how you met Julian? Ariel nodded, trying to appear more relaxed than she felt. Yes, though not exactly as planned. My phone died during a rainstorm, and I accidentally went to the wrong address. Julian's address. A happy accident, it seems, Diane noted with a smile. Julian, after losing your wife and daughter so tragically, did you ever think you would find love again? Julian's face grew solemn. No, I didn't. For a long time I couldn't imagine it. Sharon and Emily were my whole world. When they died, that world ended. He paused, his voice steady but emotion evident in his eyes. Meeting Ariel wasn't about replacing what I lost. It was about finding something new, something different but equally precious. Diane nodded sympathetically before turning to Ariel. Ariel, stepping into a relationship with someone who has experienced such profound loss must be challenging. How have you navigated that? Ariel took a deep breath. With care and respect. My own sister passed away last year, so I understand grief, though everyone's experience is different. Julian and Addy, we don't try to fix each other's pain. We just make space for it, alongside the joy we've found together. The interview continued, touching on Julian's upcoming book release, the unexpected media attention, and their hopes for the future. Throughout, Julian remained protective, redirecting questions that probed too deeply into painful territory, while Ariel spoke with a natural honesty that seemed to resonate with Diane and, they hoped, the audience. As the segment was wrapping up, Diane asked one final question. Julian, you've been notoriously private about your personal life. Why choose to do this interview now? Julian's gaze was steady. Because sometimes silence allows others to control your story. I wanted the world to know the truth about my continued love and respect for Sharon and Emily's memory, and about how meeting Ariel has given me hope for a future I didn't think was possible. Both can exist together. When the cameras stopped rolling, Diane thanked them warmly. That was beautiful, truly. Thank you both for your honesty. Back in the dressing room, Julian pulled Ariel into his arms. You were amazing, he murmured against her hair. So poised, so genuine. So was I interrupting something? Came a sharp voice from the doorway. They turned to find Vanessa standing there, tablet in hand, her expression unreadable. The interview was good, very good. The network is already getting positive feedback. She handed the tablet to Julian. But there's something else you need to see. Julian looked at the screen, his face darkening as he read. When did this come out? During your interview. The timing wasn't an accident. What is it? Ariel asked, anxiety creeping back. Julian passed her the tablet, his jaw tight. On the screen was an article from a major gossip site. Exclusive. Ariel Benton's secret past. The woman behind Julian Everhart's return to the spotlight. Ariel scanned the article, her blood running cold. Someone had dug into her past, her brief marriage at 19 to a man who later went to prison for fraud, her struggle with debt afterward, even her custody arrangement with Lily, twisted to make it seem like she was using her niece to gain Julian's sympathy. This is all twisted, she said, her voice shaking. Yes, I was married young, and yes, David went to prison, but I didn't know about his illegal activities, and the way they're talking about Lily, like I'm using her. Julian took the tablet and handed it back to Vanessa. Get our lawyers on this, now. I want a retraction and an apology. Vanessa nodded, her usual coolness softened by concern. I'm already on it. But Julian, this won't be the last attack. Someone is determined to discredit Ariel. Who would do this? Ariel asked, feeling suddenly vulnerable. Julian's expression was grim. Someone who doesn't want us together. Someone who thinks they have something to gain by driving you away. As they left the studio through a back entrance to avoid the waiting photographers, Ariel couldn't shake the feeling that their challenges were just beginning. The interview had gone well, but this new attack on her character was a painful reminder that their relationship would continue to be under scrutiny. In the car heading back to Julian's house, she turned to him, voicing the fear that had begun to take root. What if this never stops? What if being with me just brings you More pain, more invasion of your privacy? Julian took her hand firmly in his. Ariel, look at me. None of this changes how I feel about you. Whatever is in your past, whatever they try to use against us, it doesn't matter. What matters is what we build together from this point forward. His words reassured her, but as they pulled up to his house and saw the small crowd of reporters gathered at the gate, Ariel couldn't help wondering if loving Julian meant sacrificing the quiet, simple life she'd always known, and if she was ready for what that sacrifice might entail. The week following their television interview was a whirlwind of emotions for Ariel. The interview itself had been received positively by most viewers, with many commenting on the genuine connection between her and Julian, but the tabloid article about her past had opened the floodgates for more intrusive speculation and gossip. Ariel sat at Julian's kitchen island, scrolling through her phone with growing dismay. Each day seemed to bring a new revelation about her life, some based loosely on truth, others completely fabricated. You shouldn't be reading those, Julian said gently, coming to stand behind her. He placed his hands on her shoulders, kneading the tension he found there. I know, Ariel sighed, putting the phone down. But I can't help it. They're talking about Lily now, Julian, saying I took custody of her for financial gain, that I'm using her to appeal to your paternal instincts. It's disgusting. Julian's jaw tightened. The lawyers are doing everything they can. They've already gotten 3 sites to take down their stories and issue retractions. But the damage is already done, Ariel said, her voice small. People at Lily's school are talking. Some of the parents have been calling my mother, asking questions. It's affecting Lily now, not just me. Julian came around to face her, taking her hands in his. What can I do? How can I make this better? The desperate concern in his eyes nearly broke Ariel's heart. None of this was his fault, yet he carried the weight of responsibility for bringing this storm into her life. I don't know, she admitted. I thought staying here keeping a low profile would help, but it's been almost 2 weeks and the attention hasn't died down. If anything, it's getting worse. Julian was silent for a moment, his expression troubled. Vanessa suggested we could try a different approach. Instead of hiding, we could be more public, official, give them what they want but on our terms. What does that mean? It means acknowledging openly that we're together, making appearances, controlled interviews with friendly reporters. The theory is that once we're not a mystery anymore, they'll lose interest. Ariel considered this. Would that work? Maybe, for a while. But eventually we'd just become another celebrity couple, subject to constant scrutiny. Julian ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she now recognized as a sign of his frustration. The truth is, I don't know if there's an easy fix. This is the world I've been hiding from for 4 years. The weight of his words hung between them. This was his reality, a life without true privacy, where relationships became public property, and now it was becoming her reality too. Before she could respond, Lily bounded into the kitchen, her dark hair in a messy ponytail, eyes bright with excitement. Ariel, Mr. Julian, can we go to the music store today? Mrs. Winters gave me a new piece to practice, but I need the sheet music. Julian's face softened as he looked at Lily. Over the past 2 weeks, they had developed a sweet connection, bonding over books and music. Of course we can, he said, but we'll have to be careful. Maybe use the back entrance. Lily's smile faded slightly. Because of the reporters? Ariel nodded, hating that her niece had to worry about such things. Yes, honey. They're still interested in us for some reason. Because you're dating a famous person, Lily said matter-of-factly. Maddie from school said her mom has all Mr. Julian's books, and she thinks it's romantic, like a movie. Ariel and Julian exchanged surprised glances. They hadn't officially told Lily they were dating, keeping their displays of affection private. Is that what you think we're doing? Dating? Ariel asked carefully. Lily rolled her eyes in that pre-teen way that suggested adults were hopelessly clueless. Duh. You look at each other like Mom and Dad used to. Plus, I heard Grandma talking to her friend on the phone about it. Julian chuckled, the tension in the room breaking. Well, I suppose that cat's out of the bag. So can we go? Lily pressed. To the music store? Yes, Julian decided. Let me call my driver. We'll take the SUV with the tinted windows. As Julian stepped away to make the call, Ariel looked at Lily closely. "Does it bother you, all this attention, the reporters, me and Julian?" Lily considered the question with surprising thoughtfulness for a 12-year-old. "The reporters are annoying, but Mr. Julian isn't. He's nice, and he makes you smile more than you used to." Ariel felt tears prick her eyes. "He does, doesn't he?" "Mom would like him," Lily added quietly. "She always said you deserved someone good." Ariel pulled Lily into a tight hug, overwhelmed by the simple wisdom of her niece's words. "Thank you, sweetheart." The trip to the music store was carefully orchestrated. Julian's driver took them to a small, upscale shop in a neighboring town where Julian had called ahead to ensure privacy. Despite their precautions, someone must have tipped off the press. As they were leaving the store, a photographer appeared, snapping photos of the three of them. Julian instinctively stepped in front of Lily, shielding her from the camera, while Ariel guided her quickly to the waiting car. The incident was brief but jarring, especially for Lily, who seemed shaken by the photographer's aggressive approach. On the drive home, Julian was unusually quiet, his expression troubled. Ariel could almost see the thoughts churning behind his eyes. When they arrived back at his house, he asked if they could talk privately once Lily was settled. Later that evening, after Lily had gone to bed and Ariel's mother had retired to her room, Julian led Ariel to his study, a warm space lined with bookshelves that she'd come to love. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice serious, "about us, about this situation." Ariel felt a flutter of anxiety. "What about it?" Julian took both her hands in his gaze direct and earnest. "I love you, Ariel. These past weeks, despite all the chaos, have been the happiest I've known in years. Having you here, seeing you with Lily, watching you handle all this pressure, with such grace, it's only made me more certain of what I want." "And what's that?" Ariel asked, her heart beating faster. "A future with you. A real life together, not this limbo we're in now." Julian took a deep breath. "But I also realized, today, watching that photographer frighten Lily, that I've been selfish. My world comes with a price. A lack of privacy, unwanted attention, constant scrutiny, and I've dragged you and your family into it." Ariel squeezed his hands. "Julian, that wasn't your fault, and we're handling it. But should you have to?" "That's the question I keep asking myself." Julian's eyes were troubled. "You had a quiet, normal life before me. Lily was just a regular kid, not the subject of tabloid speculation." A cold fear began to spread through Ariel's chest. "What are you saying?" Julian's voice was strained. "I'm saying that I love you enough to consider whether loving me is what's best for you, for Lily, for the life you've built." "Don't," Ariel said, her voice suddenly fierce. "Don't you dare make that decision for me, Julian Everhart. If you don't want to be with me, say so. But don't hide behind some noble sacrifice." Julian looked startled by her vehemence. "Ariel, that's not—" "It is," she insisted. "You're scared. I get it. I'm scared too. This is all happening so fast, and yes, it's complicated and messy, but that doesn't mean it's wrong." "I just don't want to see you hurt because of me," Julian said softly, "or to see Lily's childhood affected by all this attention." Ariel took a step closer to him. "Life hurts sometimes. That's not a reason to stop living it. You, of all people, should understand that. After everything you lost, after all the pain, you still found the courage to open your door to me that rainy day, to let me in, literally and figuratively. Don't. Close that door now." Julian's expression softened, his eyes filled with a mixture of love and uncertainty. "What if it gets worse before it gets better? What if they never leave us alone?" "Then we figure it out together," Ariel said firmly. "But you don't get to decide for me what I can handle or what's worth fighting for. That's my choice." For a long moment, Julian was silent, searching her face. Then, slowly, he nodded. "You're right. I'm sorry. I was trying to protect you, but I was really just afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of loving this much again. Of how completely my happiness depends on you now." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Of losing you like I lost them." Understanding washed over Ariel. Of course. His instinct to push her away wasn't really about protecting her. It was about protecting himself from the possibility of another, devastating loss. She reached up, gently cupping his face in her hands. "Julian, I can't promise you that nothing bad will ever happen. No one can. But I can promise you that right now, in this moment, I choose you. I choose us, and I'll keep choosing us every day, no matter what comes." Julian's arms went around her, pulling her close. "I choose you too," he murmured against her hair. "Every day, no matter what." They stood there in the quiet of his study, holding each other, both understanding that they had just crossed an important threshold. Whatever came next, they would face it united. The next morning, Julian woke Ariel early, excitement evident in his eyes. "I have an idea," he said, sitting on the edge of her bed. "A solution, maybe, or at least a start." Ariel sat up, intrigued by his enthusiasm. "What is it?" "My lake house in Vermont. It's remote, private, surrounded by acres of woods. No one knows about it except Vanessa and my lawyer. I've never taken anyone there, never mentioned it in interviews." "You want us to go there? Run away?" Julian shook his head. "Not running away. Strategic retreat. Give the media circus time to die down. I can finish my book there. I'm so close to done now. You and Lily and your mother could have peace, space to breathe." Ariel considered the idea. "For how long?" "A month, maybe 2, until my book launch. By then, hopefully, some new scandal will have captured the public's attention." Julian's eyes were alight with possibility. "And Ariel, it would give us time, real time together, without all this pressure, to figure out what we want the future to look like." The idea was tempting, an escape from the constant tension of the past weeks, a chance to see what their relationship might be like without the spotlight. "What about my job? Lily's school? You've already been given leave from work, and Lily's school year is almost over. She could finish remotely. The lake house has excellent internet." Julian took her hands. "Think about it. Peace, quiet, just us, figuring things out at our own pace." Ariel felt a smile spreading across her face. "It sounds perfect." Within days, they had made their arrangements. Julian's team put out a brief statement saying he was taking time to complete his manuscript in privacy, while Ariel spoke with her boss and Lily's school. As they prepared to leave, Vanessa arrived for one final strategy meeting. "The plan is good," she admitted, reviewing the security measures Julian had put in place. "The timing works with the publishing schedule. By the time you return, we'll be focused on the book launch, not your personal life." "And the stories about Ariel?" Julian asked. Vanessa's expression was reassuring. "Our lawyers have been aggressive. Most outlets have backed off. The narrative is shifting to focus on the romance of it all, the reclusive author and the woman who brought him back to life. It's actually great for book sales." Ariel couldn't help but laugh at the irony. "So our relationship is good publicity now?" "The best," Vanessa confirmed with a rare, genuine smile. "Readers love a redemption story, and yours is compelling. The widower finding love again. The ordinary woman whose kindness healed his heart. It's relatable." Julian shook his head, but he was smiling too. "As long as they leave Lily out of it, they can spin whatever fairy tale they want." The day of their departure arrived clear and bright. As they loaded the last of their bags into Julian's SUV, Ariel took a moment to look back at the house where everything had begun, where a wrong turn in a rainstorm had led her to Julian's door and changed both their lives forever. Julian came to stand beside her, following her gaze. "We'll be back," he said softly. "This isn't goodbye to anything that matters." Ariel nodded, leaning into his side. "I know. It's just strange to think how differently things might have turned out if my phone hadn't died that day. If I hadn't punched in the wrong address." "I've thought about that too," Julian admitted. "All the tiny coincidences that had to align for us to meet. It feels like fate," Ariel suggested with a small smile. Julian's arm tightened around her. "I was going to say remarkably good luck, but fate works too." The drive to Vermont took most of the day, with Lily chattering excitedly about the lake and the woods, and Ariel's mother dozing in the back seat. As they traveled further north, the landscape grew increasingly rural and forested, until finally Julian turned onto a narrow private road that wound through dense woods. "Almost there," he said, glancing at Ariel with a smile. When the trees finally parted to reveal the lake house, Ariel gasped. It wasn't the grand mansion she had half expected, but a beautiful rustic lodge built of stone and timber with large windows overlooking a pristine lake. Flowering shrubs surrounded a wide porch, and a small dock extended into the clear water. "Julian, it's beautiful," she breathed. "It's been in my family for generations," he explained as they parked. "My grandfather built it as a writing retreat. I've always found peace here." The inside was just as welcoming: warm wood, comfortable furniture, a massive stone fireplace in the main room. It was smaller than Julian's main house, but still spacious enough for privacy, with 4 bedrooms and a loft space that Lily immediately claimed as her reading nook. As everyone settled in, exploring the house and grounds, Julian took Ariel's hand and led her down to the dock. The late afternoon sun glittered on the water, and the only sounds were birdsong and the gentle lapping of small waves against the wooden pilings. "What do you think?" Julian asked, watching her face. "Could you be happy here for a while?" Ariel looked out over the peaceful lake, then back at the house where she could see Lily and her mother on the porch, already looking more relaxed than they had in weeks. "Yes," she said with certainty. "I think we all could." Julian pulled, her clothes pressing a kiss to her temple. "That's what I was hoping you'd say." The days at the lake house fell into a gentle rhythm. Mornings found Julian writing in the study while Ariel helped Lily with her schoolwork. Afternoons were for exploring the woods, swimming in the lake as the weather warmed, or reading together on the wide porch. Evenings were family dinners, board games, and quiet conversations by the fire. Away from the pressures of publicity and the constant intrusion of reporters, Julian and Ariel's relationship deepened. They learned each other's habits, preferences, the small details that make up a shared life. Julian discovered Ariel's love of early mornings and thunderstorms, while she came to understand his need for solitude when wrestling with a difficult passage in his writing, and his unexpected talent for baking bread. Lily thrived in the peaceful environment, practicing her violin without self-consciousness, developing a passion for identifying local birds, and forming a special bond with Julian, who treated her with a mixture of respect and gentle guidance that she responded to beautifully. Ariel's mother, too, seemed to blossom, her health improving with the stress-free routine and clean mountain air. She and Julian would often sit together in the evenings, discussing books or playing chess, developing a warm friendship that reassured Ariel more than words could express. One evening, about 3 weeks into their stay, Ariel found Julian standing on the dock, looking out at the sunset that painted the lake in shades of gold and pink. She joined him silently, slipping her hand into his. "Penny for your thoughts," she said after a moment. Julian smiled down at her. "They're worth more than that, I think." "Oh, do tell." Julian turned to face her fully, his expression serious but tender. "I was thinking about how complete this feels. Having you here, having Lily and your mother here, the house has never felt so alive." "It does feel right, doesn't it?" Ariel agreed, her heart full. "Like this is how it was always meant to be." "That's exactly it," Julian said, squeezing her hand. "Like the missing pieces finally falling into place." He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. "Ariel, I've been thinking a lot about what happens when we go back. And I don't want to go back to the way things were, with you living in your apartment and me in my house, seeing each other on Tuesdays for tea." His eyes were intensely blue in the fading light. "I want more than that. I want what we have here, but always." Ariel's heart began to race. "What are you saying, Julian?" He took both her hands in his gaze never leaving hers. "I'm saying that I love you, Ariel Benton. I love your kindness, your strength, your honesty. I love the way you care for Lily, the way you handle challenges with grace, the way you make me feel like the world is full of possibilities again." Julian reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Ariel's breath caught as he opened it to reveal a simple but stunning ring, a deep blue sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. "This was my grandmother's," Julian explained, his voice thick with emotion. My grandfather gave it to her right here on this dock 70 years ago. He lowered himself to one knee, still holding her hand. Ariel, I know it hasn't been long, in the traditional sense, but when you know, you know. And I know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you, building a family together, creating a home, facing whatever comes our way as partners. His voice trembled slightly. Will you marry me? Tears filled Ariel's eyes, but her voice was steady and sure. Yes, Julian, yes, I will marry you. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Julian's face was transformed by joy. He stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her with all the love and promise of a future together. When they finally broke apart, breathless and smiling, the sound of applause made them turn toward the house. Lily and Ariel's mother stood on the porch beaming. Did you know about this? Ariel called to them, laughing through her tears. Of course we did, Lily replied with a grin. Mr. Julian asked our permission days ago, and we gave it enthusiastically, her mother added, wiping away a tear of her own. Julian wrapped his arm around Ariel's waist as they walked back to the house. I hope that was okay, he murmured, asking them first. It was perfect, Ariel assured him, leaning into his side. Everything about this is perfect. That night, they celebrated with champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for Lily, toasting to new beginnings and family bonds. As they sat around the fire planning their future together, Ariel marveled at how completely her life had changed in just a few short months. From a rainy day delivery gone wrong to this moment of perfect happiness, it was more than she had ever dared to dream for herself. And yet here she was, surrounded by love, embarking on a new chapter that promised both challenges and joys. 2 months later, Julian's new book was released to critical acclaim and strong sales. Titled The House at the Top of the Hill, it told the story of a man finding his way back to life and love after profound loss. The dedication page read simply, "For Ariel, who rang the wrong doorbell and found the right heart, and for S and E, who taught me that love never truly ends, it just makes room for more." The publicity tour was carefully managed, with Julian doing selected interviews and appearances, always with Ariel by his side. The public's fascination with their love story had indeed created a perfect marketing narrative, but more importantly, it had shifted to a respectful interest rather than invasive speculation. They were married the following spring in a small ceremony at the lake house, with only close family and friends in attendance. Lily played the violin as Ariel walked down the aisle on her mother's arm, and Julian's eyes shone with tears as he spoke his vows. Their life together would not be without its challenges. The public's interest would wax and wane. Julian's creative process would have its difficult moments, and blending their lives would require patience and compromise. But on that perfect spring day, as they stood hand in hand looking out over the lake, the future stretched before them full of promise. "Happy?" Julian asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. Ariel smiled up at him, her heart overflowing. "More than I ever thought possible." "Me too," he said softly. "Who would have thought that a wrong turn on a rainy day could lead so exactly where we both needed to be?" As the sun set over the lake, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, Ariel leaned into her husband's embrace, thinking of all the coincidences and choices that had brought them to this moment. A dying phone battery, a rain-soaked afternoon, a cup of tea offered and accepted, small moments that had changed everything. Sometimes, she reflected, love arrived in the most unexpected ways, not in grand gestures or carefully planned meetings, but in wrong turns that led exactly where you were meant to go all along. The end.